The Outsider podcast shares the opinions and analyses of Drew Landry. They are his thoughts and his thoughts alone, and do not necessarily reflect every member of his audience or newsletter readers. Now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Outsider Podcast. Folks, I am your host, as always, Drew Landry, and thank you so much for making this the best politics podcast west of I 35 in the Lone Star State. So, however, whenever, and wherever you are listening or watching, please know I am incredibly grateful for your attention. In today's episode, I visit with State House candidate on the Democratic side, Sarah McGee, who wants to unseat House member Matt Schofield, or maybe it's Sheffield, whatever his name is. Maybe it'll be Matt Loserfield in the legislature's lower chamber. You will see and hear that interview in just a little bit. And for those watching the video version, you'll notice something. I have a change of clothes as I recorded that interview and this little segment here at different times. So I'm kind of sorry about that, but at the same time, I'm not really. But you you will get to that interview in just a bit. But before I do that, there's just one story that I want to run with you here, and I just want to spend a moment that on a story that comes from the Texas Tribune that surrounds AI data centers and current Ag Commissioner Sid Miller. I rarely find myself ever agreeing with anything Sid Miller says. Okay, so there isn't a whole lot of a Venn diagram here between me and Commissioner Miller. But let's understand here. When you're right, you're right. And the story from the Texas Tribune is that he's going to join Democratic nominee for Ag Commissioner Clayton Tucker to encourage a fight on AI data centers. And so I'm just going to read just a little bit here from that story, as it's reported here by Aiden Runnels from the Texas Tribune. And Ag Commissioner Sid Miller will speak at a bipartisan forum alongside Clayton Tucker to discuss the impact of data center construction in Texas. In an interview, Sid Miller said organizers reached out to him prior to Tucker's involvement, and he agreed, he being Miller, agreed because it was the right thing to do. That's the quote. And because so few state officials have publicly expressed concern over data center construction. I'm not doing it in conjunction with him. I'm doing it as an agreement to the people, Miller said. And when I agreed to it, I didn't even know he was a part of it, he being Clayton Tucker. Miller, who has served as the Ag Commissioner since 2015, is long outspoken against data centers and the rapid expansion, and he's written about it and taken up usable farmland. A strain on the state's electric grid and environmental concerns are really his main issues. He says, "Look, I'm not big on regulation," Miller said here, "but we're going to have to put some kind of guardrails around these right now because right now there's none." And, when Miller, he has said that he's not coming to this thing to be bipartisan, as he, you know, doesn't really believe in the other side here. He goes on to say that he's never endorsed a Democrat. I've never campaigned for a Democrat. He goes on to say, but this guy, how he doesn't say Clayton Tucker's name, he's right on this issue. And Miller goes on to say that he's right on other issues too. So, what he's saying here is, I'm not coming here out of the spirit of bipartisanship. I'm not coming here to campaign for the Democrat. I'm not coming here to endorse the Democrat. But the Democrat's right. Um, Look, these two are having a verge here. They are converging on the issue of data centers, and good. You know, when both sides have the same vision for something, that's probably the right idea. You know how I feel about data centers. I've never been a big fan of them. I'm probably not going to be until I see some hard data to say that they're not a drain on water. They're not a harm to our um, energy sources. They'll pay their share of property taxes, and they won't, fight their appraisal. I need those to in order to be in favor of it. I don't think I'm ever going to get it, and I have no problem standing up for the little guy, and I don't think you would either. So, good on Sid Miller, who I see him and I think of Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard. I just he just walks around with that idiotic hat, and he just, I just say, "Whoa, them Hazzard Duke boys got me again," all that crap. Every time I see him, that's what I think of. But hey, Boss Hogg and Clayton Tucker, hey man, they are converging on the issue of data centers, and good for them. All right. Now, there's that one story that I wanted to speak about, and now I'm going to put it on over here and give you that interview that I had with Sarah McGee. All right, and it's great to have Sarah McGee on the Outsider Podcast. Sarah, thank you so much for joining this
Thank you for
podcast.
having me.
Absolutely. How's the campaign going?
You know, it's going good. I have people telling me lately that I'm brave, and I'm like, no, I'm brave now, but I definitely started out as stupid because I had no idea. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna run for office. And then, I have obviously like learned a ton since I filed because I filed super early. But it was always a super long shot in the beginning, and I was just like skipping down the street with my backpack and my pigtails, like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna knock on every door in my district, and I don't care what they say, and I don't care if I don't have money, I'm gonna win. um and I've kind of had that attitude the whole time, but with the national the national temperature, and then the school voucher thing that everyone is super duper mad about, and then the unexpected, because I don't personally use hemp, but I do support freedom. And so it's always been in my platform, and there was a huge uprising from the hemp community over SB3 last cycle. And then now, like, the final nail in the coffin is putting the most corrupt politician in the history of Texas, like, at the top of the ticket. And all of a sudden, my race has officially moved to a true toss up. And so I'm like, let's go. Like, like, before, I was always determined to do it anyway. But after the primaries last week, I got like this huge burst of wind in my sails. It's gonna just like carry me all the way to November. So it's going good, to answer your question.
I love that. That is great. I'm always, and we're gonna meet Winnie the cat here. Hello, Winnie.
Yay, Kitty! I
Uh,
just had mine bugging me. I didn't know we were a cat podcast. I totally
oh,
would have picked him up, and next
oh
time he
yeah.
comes in here, because he will.
I,
He will.
I,
He will come in here.
that is no problem. I mean, it's just more eyeballs over here, which is fantastic. So I don't have a single problem with that. She's pretty free willing, so I'm only on her time. Um,
Well, naturally. Yeah. Just I don't I mean, all cat owners know that. We worked for them.
all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that is, I've been following just a little bit about your race and how you jumped up to that exact level there, where you're really pushing the envelope with your opponent, who's been there for some time. But I'm
Mhm.
curious, like, you know, what got you into this? I'm always interested in an origin story. So,
Right. Yeah.
talk to me about like what got you involved.
Yeah, so I have a pretty interesting one. Like, I was raised in a political household, and when I say that, I don't come from politicians, or nobody has served in my family. But politics were always discussed at the dinner table, CNN or Fox on in the background. And like, I went and voted, like, I turned 18 in 1998 and voted in my very first election, that November. And have voted in every election since. Not always the primaries, but every election I've always paid attention. And so, after Donald Trump, everybody who was even kind of interested in politics started paying a lot more attention. So I started paying a lot more attention then. And then, having conversations, getting in forums, being online about it. And then once my kids were grown, because they're 23 and 24 now, but they were 21 and 22 during the 24 cycle. So it was my first presidential cycle where my kids were grown and out of the house, and I wasn't doing the whole busing them back and forth to activities and having to be home for homework and all that stuff. So I got really into like volunteering. So I was block walking for Colin Allred and phone banking for Kamala. And I was just like very involved during this. I'm sorry, I keep kicking my thing. Very involved during the 24 cycle. And so it was the very first day. But even then, I was just like, oh, this is awesome. I'm a political activist now. Like, yes, let's go. Um, Even then, like being a politician had not crossed my mind, but it was the first day of early voting. And I went to the polls, and the incumbent that is about to lose his job was there poll greeting. And I'd never met him before. And I was like, let me go like talk to him because they tell you to talk to your representatives. And I mean, that's what we're talking. I'd never even met the guy. And I just a quick background on me. So what I do for my day job, I'm a director of radiology. And so the abortion bans I had seen firsthand like what had happened when it first passed. Like, no, you can put the kitty in the frame. like, like women were having to have follow-up ultrasounds and follow-up lab work, and doctors were terrified to act, and nobody knew what to do. And I mean, it was an immediate damage to women being able to seek timely care. And like I said at the time, super naive at the beginning, because I thought for sure, I was like, oh, I'll just go tell him. I'll just go talk to him. I'll just go tell him what's happening. And like, he'll listen and he'll be like, oh, I never considered that. And then he'll go back to Washington and take my advice, or not Washington, I'm sorry, Austin, and take my advice. And like, I tell that story because that's literally what was in my head. Like so naive. And so I did, and I walked up and told him, all these things. I was still wearing my scrubs. I was like, this is what I do for a living. This is what I've seen with my own eyes. And then he basically called me a liar to my face. Um, yeah, and told me that those things weren't happening, that the law was clear, and that if there was anything weird going on, that it was because the doctors didn't know what they were doing. Like basically all the Republican talking points. And that was it. That was literally it. I walked away from that conversation. I was like, "Oh no, like I'm taking your job. Like you're not this is my home. Like I was born in Dallas, but I've lived in this district since I was 3 years old. So this is my home. I grew up here. I went to school here, had my children here, raised my children here, built my career here, my life here. And I was just like, this guy, like in my home, like this is the person. And that was it. And so yeah, like, and then of course I voted for the Democrat that was running in 24. And then the results of the election, I filed my paperwork with the Texas Ethics Commission the week after the 24 elections. Yeah. And that was all she wrote. And then like, and I kind of tell the story. I'm so sorry. I got a call in the middle. Let me get back in here. Okay. Um, I tell the story that I started this race by Googling how to run for office in Texas. And that's so true. Like, I literally Googled how to run for office in Texas. So I filed my paperwork, set up all my socials, um, and then started just like going everywhere, going to every club meeting, school board meetings, community meetings, like anywhere I could meet people, start to get my name out there. I think my first postcards were like red, black, and blue. Like I designed them on, like Vistaprint or something. Like I had zero clue, but I was just like, I just have to go everywhere and talk to everyone and do everything. Um, and then slowly like met more and more people, and then I started bringing on some campaign staff, and then my socials started doing pretty good. Fundraising was looking decent, and next thing you know, we have 5 months to go, and I have a a really solid, formidable campaign, both in like the momentum, the volunteer structure that I've been able to establish over the last year and a half. Donations are still, but we're Democrats in Texas, so that's just to be expected. Um, and and like the winds are just blowing all in the right direction. So it's really exciting because I just like I never in a million years thought I would do it, but the prospect and like the pride I feel at being like having the chance to actually go and be a voice for my hometown in Austin is awesome or is awesome because that they're definitely not getting that right now with the current rep.
I think that is an amazing story because
Oh.
I think some of the my whole thing is the best representatives, the best candidates are the ones who don't actively seek to be one.
Right. Yeah.
And they're kind of called to it, and they're not ambitious people chomping at the bit. Okay, I'm now 32. I've got kids now. I've got married. Okay, I've done all the things I need to do. I'm going to go run. No, okay. I'm sure there's people who do that. As a matter of fact, I know that there are, but that's not you. That's not what makes
Yeah.
you start. You kind of stumble upon it. You found
Yeah.
your why, and you tell it in a very good way, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's funny because through this process, I've met a lot of the other people that are running, for seats in Austin. And I definitely have, you can tell who's a stepping stone and who has the heart, like who's looking at the position as a stepping stone and who's eyeing, you know, DC or a lobbying career or, and that's, um, I could never because this is really hard.
It
And
is.
maybe
Campaigning is really hard. Yeah, it is.
yeah, maybe it's because I care too much or I don't know, but it is I often joke and maybe it's because of the socials. It may not be as damaging if it weren't for the fact that, I'm using Twitter as a tool to advance my campaign. And it's been a successful way to advance my campaign. It's helped me fundraise. Um, because I often joke that this is like the most emotionally damaging thing I've ever voluntarily submitted myself to. I'm like, why would anybody voluntarily do this? And people are like, "Oh, you want to be an influencer?" No, my social media presence prior to running for office consisted of like my Facebook that was like 500 people made up of family members and people I went to high school with, and then I had a TikTok for my dog with like 10 followers. Like, that was it. Like my only, and I had a tiny little Twitter with like 100 followers where I would talk like strictly NFL, but it was more, I wouldn't really participate in the conversation. It was just where I would get my breaking NFL news because I'm a huge football fan. I don't talk about it much, in the political world, but anyway, so yeah, so trying to adjust to the comment section of, I don't know why anybody would ever voluntarily do that. But being a first time candidate in a swing district where I have to use every tool available to me, so that is why I continue to subject myself to that hellscape.
It's a higher calling. I mean, you're doing
Something
it
like that.
for a reason. Yeah, you're not doing it for your health. I mean, you're doing it
No.
probably like the worst thing you could ever do for yourself.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. And and it's because at first I felt like I had to be on all day and respond to everything. And now it might look like I'm like super active, but I'll get on for like 5 minutes, tweet a couple things, reply to a couple comments, and then put it away for a while. And then there's some nights where I don't have any, I don't have a campaign thing going on. There's nothing, nothing I want to watch. I might just, hang out on my back porch, watch my dog, run back and forth. And then, I might be actively on for like an hour. But other than that, like I have really compartmentalized how much time I actually physically give to that app.
I think that is very healthy. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So I think with your background, um, healthcare is probably a big part of your platform. What else would you put in there?
Oh gosh, it's education. And I mean, that's the craziest thing because, I'm running to represent Katy ISD and Cy-Fair ISD. I went to Katy High School. I went to Katy schools. I actually live on the Cypress side of my district now because my district goes all over West Harris County. And those are two of the largest school districts in the state, and they're two very proud school districts, and they're destination districts. People enjoy higher home values in Katy and Cypress because people get transferred to Houston from all over the country. They're trying to figure out where they want to live. They're looking at the school systems in the area, and they will choose to come live in Katy or Cypress. I mean, entire communities have been built around it. Like Katy High School is older than my great grandmother. Like yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And so, two very proud districts that are just being absolutely decimated by lack of funding right now. They're losing staff, they're losing students, they're not losing campuses yet, but that's definitely a worry in the back of everyone's mind because right next door, Houston ISD, lost campuses. Austin ISD is about to be taken over by the state. Fort Worth is was taken over by the state. And there's just really bad things happening in the world of public education right now. So, it was, the conversation with my opponent. They always say not to name your opponent. I don't know why. It's a weird. I'm not a politician, so. But anyway, um, the conversation with him on the first day of early voting was what like kind of sparked me to run for office, just because he's just a horrible person. But the down in the dirt fight for public education is definitely something that has like kept me going this whole time because it's bad and it's not getting any better. And now even, the Republicans, they just had the public education interim hearing over the last couple of days. And even Republican legislators are like, this isn't what we were told. What am I supposed to tell my voters? And I'm like, well, tell them to vote for Democrats because it is very clear that the Republican, agenda is completely killing public education in Texas and turning it into a for-profit system. Like that is their ultimate goal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There are those who stood up to the voucher fight. They got
Mhm.
they got primaried back in 24. They're not there.
Yep. Yep.
Like one or two, three left, and that's it. And they voted with Abbott on almost everything else.
Hmm.
One thing, and so it's education is a civil right, and
Hmm.
of a privilege thing, and I'm glad that's part of your platform. What's another thing?
Yeah. So another thing, and I know this is crazy because it's not usually like a progressive talking point, but here in Texas, we have two main forms of taxes. We have sales tax and property tax. And Greg Abbott consistently, like, he refuses to expand the tax base. He would never dream of taxing businesses. He's giving all of these data centers property tax abatements to come here. And so there are truly ways that we can actually lower property taxes and provide like considerable property tax relief while still funding public services if we would do things that Greg Abbott is not willing to do because he only works for businesses. And so I do have property taxes on my platform, which people are like, lowering taxes, aren't you a Democrat? Yes. But that's the thing. It's changing the tax structure so it works for the working class and literally not Elon Musk. Like they're all like, "Oh, all these businesses are coming here." I'm like, "Yeah, all these businesses are coming here because Greg Abbott created a tax haven for them." Like, and that's great, but especially with the data centers, that's not creating jobs. Like the construction of them are, but once the construction's done, it takes like 20 people to run an entire data center. So they're not lasting jobs. They're not sustainable jobs. They're just here to get massive tax breaks, take up all of our electricity, pass the savings or pass the cost of the expanding electricity infrastructure that are required onto the downstream consumer and steal all of our clean water. Like for crying out loud, we don't need them. They need us. And if they need us, then they need to come in and make it worth it for us for them to be here. And so I'm not one of those like in a 140 character tweet I might be like no data centers, but we do need them. That is the future, but they have to contribute. So I mean I have a plan for data centers if they want to be welcome into a community.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because I'm one of these people who just says, there's the door,
Yeah.
go go somewhere else. But hey, that's you're running. You have the power.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, but that's the thing, because
I,
if these are multi-billion-dollar companies, and so if you're going to come into our community, first you have to have a net negative effect on the community, or net zero effect on the community. Like, no, if you're coming in and you need electricity, you build your own power. You either build your own power or you pay for the infrastructure improvements that are necessary for the existing power company to provide your power, and then you completely fortify the water system. You have to invest in the local water system because there's so many ways other than just desalination that we can improve our water supply. We have so many leaking pipes and busted this and busted that, and there are so many things that we can be doing because infrastructure under Republicans for the last 30 years, the state is on the verge of crumbling. Like there was a report a few weeks ago I saw that my district has sunk by 14 inches in the last 8 years, I think it is. 14 inches. The ground has sunk in my because of the water being sucked out, and that's just not sustainable because of the growth. And then the third thing, they are expected, the tax breaks will immediately end, and they are expected to actually contribute to education in the communities where they are developing, and you have to be a regulated distance away from existing neighborhoods and community structures. So there's a way for them to coexist, but right now it's completely off the rails, and existing leadership is so focused on business that they haven't even asked for one concession. So,
that's a really good point, and I think that's a really good start. That's really smart.
yeah.
So you have healthcare, education, property taxes. There another.
Oh, I'm definitely pushing for full cannabis legalization. I mean, it's 2026 for crying out loud. Like, let the people have whatever. Like, if we're expected to deal with this society, and like I said, I don't personally use because I work in healthcare. Um, but as it was coming up, I was so surprised how many people I know, which we jokingly and refer to them as and this is a term of endearment. I say we refer to them as the wine moms. But how many wine moms have switched from wine to just an afternoon gummy to just unwind and relax in the evening, and um, they're mad. Like they were really mad. And then you have the seniors that have been using it for pain relief, veterans getting off of opioids. Like there are so many, you hear cannabis and it's just, oh, potheads. I haven't met a single person that I would label, the classic pothead. Um, that is, being like, oh, legalize weed. They don't care. They have their mark or their plug or whatever you call it, whatever the kids call it these days. These are productive members of society that are looking for alternate medication sources, and it has really helped them in their lives. And so, yeah, like full cannabis legalization, and then obviously regulation, and then some tax revenue from that. We don't want to overly tax because then that just puts people in the black, back to the black market. But um, yeah, that, and then um, I've had gambling on my website. I took it off. I want to hear more about it. I'm not super invested in the conversation right now because my platform has shifted. It's pretty set now, but it shifted pretty, it was very fluid over the first 12 months because when I very first set up my website, I was just like, oh, I'm going to write a Democratic platform. Just, and then over the 12 months, it really changed and evolved based on what people were telling me in the community that they wanted to see out of a representative. Which, that's what a representative is supposed to do. Like everyone's like,
It's
oh, what
good
a
that
good idea. And I'm like, that's literally the job. Like,
that's good. So
yeah.
that's pretty interesting. That you're wanting to learn more about issues like gambling.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, like I said, I,
having
I haven't
education.
spent a ton of time looking into it because nobody has asked for it. Nobody in my district has spoken against it, and nobody has asked for it. Um, So we'll kind of see where that, but I'm open, I'm open to it, but that we'll see where that conversation goes. And of course, nobody wants a casino in their neighborhood, so I feel like it would be one of those things that definitely started with an expansion of like online sports gambling.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, kind of getting in the weeds on that one, but
But
that's where I fall on that one.
I think that is great. I want
Yeah.
to ask you now, because you're in a contested, this is going to be one of big seats in this race. Uh, I deal in political science. That's part of my job. A lot of what the research has said is that a lot of it top down. State politics gets swept in federal politics. So it seems like that there's going to be this big movement, this great big um, part of democratic enthusiasm,
Hmm.
and I'm interested. In 2018 they took out 12. Democrats took 12 seats,
Hmm.
uh, and I think it might be around that this time with such enthusiasm. You come in, and if Republicans are still in, hey there, buddy. And if Republicans
He
are,
keeps bugging me, and I'm like, okay, then just come here. And he's like,
yeah,
no, I don't
right.
want to pick up. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm so
If
sorry. If
no, you're fine.
Republicans are, go ahead.
If they're still in power in the House,
Uh-huh.
and and if Burrows is back in and he wants to be Speaker for a second term, there was a recent memo, a recent resolution from the party chair that says, "Hey, Democrats don't do the bipartisan thing anymore.
Yep.
Republicans got rid of it. They are the ones to do it. Don't try this again. This isn't 2015 or 1997 or
Hmm.
1987. So don't try that anymore. Just just don't do it." Are you going to follow that, or are you going to say, I'm going to keep my options
No,
open?
absolutely not. I want them to stew in their own filth. And I will, yeah. And that was, no, I was going to say that was unnecessarily harsh. It absolutely was not. I am so sick of Democrats being blamed for everything. And that is all I see all over Twitter is there's people, even though this was one of the most far right sessions in Texas legislative history, the things that they passed, the school vouchers, the 10 commandments in schools, the parental rights bill that ended up just basically being like a horrible, like anti LGBTQ, bill, the things that they passed were just absolutely disgusting. And yet there is this subset of people who are saying that Dustin Burrows is the worst speaker they ever had because a few Democrats, well, okay, more than a few, but Democrats helped elect him because they wanted, and so they're blaming it on we still have property taxes because Dustin Burrows was the speaker of the House. Like that is the most low information thing that can be spewed out of someone's mouth, and it infuriates me. I'm like, Republicans have been in control of Texas for 30 flipping years, and y'all are still finding ways to blame Democrats for your problems. They're like, oh, Democrats and rhinos, those aren't real Republicans. You don't even know what a real Republican is at this point. You know what I mean? And yeah, like you said, this isn't 2015 anymore. And that's exactly the point because that used to be how it worked until Greg Abbott came in and he started pulling the Donald Trump, playbook of replacing people who didn't do exactly what he wanted to have happen. Because, and I think I actually posted about it earlier today. Republicans used to vote their districts. That used to be the Republican mantra in the Texas. Everybody did. Democrats, Republicans. You were elected by around 200,000 people. You went to Austin. You were going to agree on some things, you weren't going to agree on others. And it was the Republicans that still had some sort of integrity. Not good people, because they still, passed crazy restrictions to women's rights and, all these other things. But they had integrity to know that these rural districts did not want vouchers. And so they stood up and they said no through regular session and then four separate special sessions that Greg Abbott tried to force it through. And they said no, or they just absolutely refused to do it. And so Greg Abbott primaried them, just like I said, like just right out of Donald Trump's playbook, like primaried them, brought him in. He finally got his way. But now you have a bunch of like from the top down puppets that are literally they're just do as they're told. And now even like the state Republican executive committee, they passed a party plank and they're giving these people scorecards. They were trying to censure individual representatives who voted more. Yeah, it was, you had like three strikes and you're out. And we're talking hundreds of bills and hundreds of votes, and they were being monitored and closely nitpicked on every single vote. And if you did not vote exactly along the party plank the way you were supposed to, they were trying to censure you. And then supposedly Donald Trump called and was like, "Nah, stop doing that." Like, like that's like, you can't take people off the ballot for not, and that would have obviously been challenged in court. But so yeah, like this was, and I want to give Democrats the benefit of the doubt because until you went through the 89th, you didn't know that that was the way it was going to be. Because for
Sure.
years and years, Democrats were, our votes were up for sale, and it was with, we let the Republicans come to us and campaign and be like, hey, we promise, like, if we get your votes for speaker, like we'll give you some, committee leaderships, and we'll, put some of your bills on the floor, and so there was an advantage to it.
Yeah.
This cycle, that advantage completely disappeared. And then just seeing the vitriol with people still, even after the horrible things that Republicans passed this last session, still blaming Democrats somehow, because, and they hate Destin Burrows for it too.
Yeah.
But like David Cook would have been any different. He would have been like the exact same bills would have been passed, the exact same things would have happened. Um, because Greg Abbott runs the show. Like nothing's getting done. He pulls these people in his office once a week and he's like, put this bill, and then they do that bill. Like it has, nothing, because they know it's a waste of time, because if it gets to his desk, he's not going to sign it anyway. So he just like a puppet pulling the strings from the top down. Anyway, I'm obviously very fired up about this because I'm, like I said, I'm sick of being blamed. So yeah, once elected, if for some reason Republicans maintain majority, oh no, no, they're going to swim in their own filth.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and because they've been letting it happen. Look at Brian Harrison constantly like, oh, just remember, they let Democrats do this. Oh yeah, I muted him a long time ago, but
There
um,
are serious people inside that legislature. It is a lot of
oh, for
hard work.
sure.
It is. It really is. And then there's jokes.
Yeah.
Brian Harrison is a joke.
Brian Harrison's a joke.
Even Republicans, even his own
Oh, no, no,
party,
no. Everybody hates
laugh
Brian
at it.
Harrison.
It's
Yeah.
it's just a whole different level of idiocy. But you're right. I mean, he does say stuff like this. And he and
Yeah.
Schatzline, former state representative Schatzline, it was they would just kind of have their own little like caucus in the back and just have their little social media meetings. It's really
Yeah. Yeah.
so laughable. And
Oh, it's ridiculous.
yeah,
And it's crazy because that's one of the things I hope that people, and it's hard to tell right now, and it's one of the things I hope to very quickly establish once elected is, yeah, I mean, I'm mouthy on Twitter, but I would be an extremely serious legislator. Like I'm there to serve my community. I'm not there to be a social media star. I'm not there to be a Brian Harrison. Like I am there to meet the needs of my community. And I want to do like a Molly Cook style, like she'll during session will hop on, a couple times a week and give an update on what they're working on. And, I want to do stuff like that to keep people informed. But I'm not going to be tweeting from the floor, a play by play of all the stupid things that my own party's doing. Cause that's
yeah,
what Bihar does. Like that's what he tweet. Like that's all he does is bitch about his own party. Like
every time. Yeah,
what a weirdo.
I know.
But
But that's
anyway,
good. That's good. I'm glad you would do that and be an adult, not be.
right, right, right.
So
Bare minimum these days, right?
I know. Who would have thought that'd be something you have to ask about?
I know.
Oh, uh,
Yeah.
Sarah, just to wrap everything up here, tell us where to find you. Where can people donate? Where can all the stuff? Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So my website is mcgee4tx.com. So McGeefortx.com. And then you can find me on all socials. Just search for Sarah for Text Ledge. But yeah, donations are super appreciated. I loved James Tallarico. You know, he's like a little brother that, you know, I've only met him a few times. I don't want to give the impression that we're like super close or like buddies or anything, but met him a few times, super proud of him. He's killing the game. But all the money's going to the top. And there are several House legislative races that a few $1,000s could make the difference between winning and losing. So if there's anything, if we can encourage people to, as much as we all love Tallarico, um, to throw some bones to your buddies down the ballot, because we need yard signs too.
That's awesome. Sarah McGee, thank you so much for joining the Outsider Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, that's it from me today. A special thanks to Sarah McGee for taking the time away from her campaign to talk with me. And thank you so much for watching and listening to the Outsider Podcast. I just want to give you a reminder here. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, shoot me an email. All right. drew.landry9@gmail.com. Okay. Again, that's drew.landry9@gmail.com. You can see that here. All right. Friends, look, I'll talk to anybody. Right. I have an open mic policy. Okay, if you want to come on here and you want to talk about something or you take issue with something that I said, send me that email. We'll get you on. We'll have that conversation and we'll have some fun. All right. I think that's the honest approach that we can really have to our politics is just to have an open and honest conversation. So shoot me that email. We'll make it happen. Okay. Uh, Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And folks, I'll see you again very, very soon.
The preceding analyses and opinions were that of Drew Landry and his alone. They did not necessarily reflect all of his podcast listeners or newsletter readers. Thank you for listening to the Outsider Podcast. Be sure to follow The Outsider on X and on Facebook. Also, don't forget to sign up to be a free subscriber to his newsletter on Substack. Just look for The Outsider. We will see you again next time.